Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel and to the last episode of my Theorycraft series for Scholomance Academy. It's been a really fun series, it's been a really fun one to make and record as well. I hope you guys have enjoyed all the videos. If you've missed any of my previous videos for all of the previous classes, go check them out. There will be a playlist on my channel. God, I can't speak. Yeah, so you guys can check them out whenever you want and see what decks are, I think are going to be played in the next expansion for each class. Without further ado, let's jump into this final episode. We're going to take a look at Rogue. So Rogue is quite an interesting class because before this expansion, obviously in the current meta, in Ashes of Outland meta, it's pretty much just been dominated by Galakrond Rogue and all the different combinations of Galakrond Rogue, right? There was Galakrond's Secret Rogue, which was like the main Galakrond Rogue initially. Then Stealth Rogue kind of came into it, and people were finding those decks. And it's pretty much just been either Secret Rogue or Stealth Rogue. And it's always been Galakrond Rogue, right? It's never really been any other types of Rogue. So really for this Theorycraft, I had this kind of goal to, I don't want to just create a Galakrond Rogue. There will be a Galakrond Rogue in this episode that I've Theorycrafted, but I also wanted to, look at the other decks, really, and look at, maybe some other options, like can Rogue actually play without Galakrond? And honestly, I think they can. I think Rogue is actually a class that got quite a lot in this expansion. Maybe not quite a lot in terms of, the amount of cards that are playable, but there is one single card that is just insane. That is just absolutely insane. And this is Secret Passage, okay? Secret Passage is an absolutely bonkers card if you guys haven't seen it. It's basically a 1-mana, shuffle your hand into your deck and draw 5 cards, right? And then at the start of your next turn, you get the cards you shuffle back, basically, right? But it's 1-mana, draw 5. It's literally 1-mana, draw 5. And you don't even discard the cards that you draw. Like, you get shuffle them back into your deck. So even if you don't use all the 5 cards immediately, you still have those cards. It's absolutely bonkers. Like, this card is absolutely insane. And I feel like it's going to carry a lot of Rogue archetypes. So because of this card, and the nature of this card is very aggressive, right? It's a 1-mana draw 5, so it's going to be used in a lot of aggressive decks. I've come up with, firstly, an Aggro Stealth Rogue. And this is a list where, as you can see, there is no Galakrond in this list. It is a very, very aggressive deck. Running the stealth package, obviously, so we have Spire Mistress, Skyvateer, and Greyheart Sage, which is like the classic stealth package in Rogue. Also running an Ashtongue Slayer in here, which is a very good card released. It gives a stealth minion plus 3 attack and immune that turn, which is really, really good. Obviously running some aggressive cards. Also running Eviscerate in this deck, running the Akama as well as another stealth minion. Running the new legendary Infiltrator Lillian. I think this card, it's probably a little bit too weak for this deck, honestly, but if you're running a stealth rogue, you might as well run it. I think it's a decent card. It can deal a little bit of damage to face sometimes and get you over the hump. Other than that, we're running a bunch of 1-drops, Blazing Battle Mage, Beaming Psychic, just to be as aggressive as possible, running double backstab. Obviously, Edwin Van Cleef as well with the Miscreant, so you can get some lackeys and get a big Edwin that can win you a lot of the games. Hook Scimitar as well, to just be able to push face. And there is so much burst damage in this deck, right? Like, let's say, in the late game, you got your opponent down to maybe 10 or 15 health, with maybe a questing, maybe a couple of early game minions, and then you run out of fuel, right, as any aggressive deck does. Well, this deck has 2 ways to draw cards. There's the Voracious Reader, which is the new 2-mana 1/3 draw until you have 3 cards at the end of each turn. So if you run out of cards, you can play this down. You're guaranteed to get 3 cards out of it. Maybe it dies next turn. It's pretty, vulnerable. But even if you get those 3 cards, it might draw you to another one of these, or it might draw you to the best card, Secret Passage, which you can then play. And basically get 5 cards, and you get a bunch of damage, right? Let's say you draw some Hook Scimitars, maybe you draw some Eviscerates. You can do a lot of burst damage from hand out of completely nowhere, right? Like, even, not even from your hand, burst damage from your deck, which is how good Secret Passage is. So I feel like the power level of this card will allow this kind of aggro stealth rogue to kind of thrive. I actually have really, really high hopes for this deck, and it's sort of an aggressive rogue archetype. It may not exactly look like this. I also have another variant later on in the video, so stay tuned for that. Of a kind of another aggro version of Rogue, but I think this stealth package is going to be very, very strong. There's a lot of card draw in this deck. You just want to get through your whole deck, play big minions early on, hit your opponent in the face, and finish them off with Secret Passage and a bunch of burn damage. So, yeah, really excited for this kind of archetype, and it'll be exciting to see Rogue go in a non-Galakrond way, I think. Okay, well, speaking of Galakrond Rogue, I had to do one for this video. I know, everyone's probably sick of seeing Galakrond Rogue right now, but I still feel like it's going to be a decent class and a decent archetype in the new expansion. This is basically just a stealth Galakrond Rogue. It's got the usual stealth package. It's got the new card Coerce. I put 1 copy of that. For a little bit of hard removal, you potentially want 2. Potentially want 0 as well, depending on the meta, I think, but putting 1 copy in there for now. And the other new card in this deck is actually just a Lawkeeper Polkout. Now, you might be wondering, why is Lawkeeper Polkout in this deck? Like, it doesn't really fit this deck. You said it was good in Highlander decks, in combo decks. And yeah, those are all true, but I feel like it's also kind of low-key good in Rogue. You're able to, play low-key Polka in the late game to, either guarantee draw your Galakrond, your Kronks, or your High Sparrow and Togwaggle, which are all really, really good cards that you want in this deck. And also, there's a nice little combo you can do for 7 mana. If you played High Sparrow and Togwaggle initially for the Wand, you can play Polka and then play Wand to draw, the Galakrond, Kronks, the Flick, maybe a Shield of Galakrond, to guarantee draw big minions and make them cost 0. And then you can then use the Galakrond that you draw off it to draw the remaining, expensive stuff from your deck and make them cost 1. So that really, really makes this deck more consistent. You're not going to play Galakrond a lot of the time for like 1 mana backstabs, 1 mana shadow steps anymore. If you have Polka, right, let's say you're about to play Galakrond, maybe you can play Polka the turn before, and then play Galakrond, and you're going to guarantee drawing some, 6 5 mana cards rather than the 0 mana cards. So it can provide a bit more consistency for Galakrond, a bit more consistency for the Wand of High Sparrow and Togwaggle. So I think this actually improved a lot by Polka. It might seem like a weird inclusion at first, but if you think about it, actually can be quite strong, I think. Other than that, obviously, it's just a standard Rogue, Galakrond Rogue list. Really, really strong. Running the Stealth package, I think it's the best package at the moment. Giving you that card draw, giving you that reach as well, the Eviscerates. Obviously, having the value with the Lackeys. I think it's just going to be a really good deck. I mean, probably just going to stay in tier 2, to be honest. Interesting Rogue list. This is technically a Galakrond Rogue, but it has a Malygos win condition, which is pretty interesting. Obviously, once again, making use of the Lawkeeper Polka. It's got Galakrond Rogue Shell. Obviously got in Galakrond, obviously using the invokes, basically trying to get the Galakrond up so you can use its battle cry to draw a bunch of cards, right? This deck, you want to cycle through your cards as quick as possible. So running a Dirty Tricks as well, even though not running any other secrets, just running a Dirty Tricks to get more card draw in there. Also running a High Sparrow and Togwaggle, you always want to get the Wand in this matchup, and you actually kind of want to save the Wand a lot of the times with Polkelt, because you can kind of guarantee a 0 mana Malygos a lot of the time. If you just save the Wand with Polkelt, Malygos, the most expensive card in this deck, so if you order it, you're going to get Malygos on top, and you're going to get 0 mana Malygos with the Wand. Obviously, you might have Malygos in hand, it becomes a bit of an issue, so because of that, I'm also running 1 copy of Umbaral's Skulker, which gives you 3 coins if you invoke twice. That just ensures that, if you drew Malygos early on, there's not really a way to shuffle it in this deck. You do have Secret Passage, but it's kind of awkward because with Secret Passage, you kind of have to, you shuffle Malygos back in, but you draw it at the start of your next turn, so it doesn't really allow you to kind of, reset the Malygos and put it back into your hand, because you're going to get it back anyway, so it doesn't really work. But double Secret Passage is in this deck to try and cycle a little bit more. And even if you have a full hand, I think it's sometimes fine, because you might not have the cards that you want. So Secret Passage can actually provide you with a bailout as well. Even this is not really an aggressive deck. But yeah, basically you want to get your Malygos. If it's in hand, okay, it's fine. You have Umbaral's Skulker to be able to get 4 additional mana on the Malygos turn, in which case then you can use Eviscerate, double Sinister Strike, and stuff like that. Double One Thief as well in this deck, which obviously discovers a mage spell, so you are sometimes able to discover maybe a Frostbolt or maybe a Fireball, which is going to be insane with Malygos. If not, you can sometimes just discover some removal, some freeze effects as well to stall out the game, to get to your win condition. So I think it's actually a pretty interesting deck. Once again, definitely improved by the fact that Lawkeeper Polka was printed. Polka making all of these Malygos decks much, much better. So I have a lot of high hopes for this deck, honestly. I think it's going to be a really good one. Kind of a meme in the last couple of months, but maybe now it has enough tools to actually be viable. We'll have to wait and see, but it's going to be a fun one nevertheless. And the final deck for this video, and the final deck of my Theorycraft as well. It's a very sad time, guys, but it is going to be another aggro-style rogue. It's going to be a weapon rogue. So it's taking like the aggro variant, but not going for stealth, but going for weapon synergy instead. We have new cards such as Self-Sharpening Sword, Volpera Toxin Blade, Steel Dancer, and Cutting Class in this deck, alongside Dr. Krasnov. Really getting that weapon package in there. Self-Sharpening Sword is a fantastic card in this deck because obviously every time it attacks, you gain an extra attack basically, and that can synergize really well with Steel Dancer, which summons a minion based off the attack of your weapon. Also have weapon buffs such as Deadly Poison as well. Early games such as Theorycraft and Spy Mistress, so you can get on the board quick. You want to get that weapon as soon as possible though. You have saps as well to get rid of big taunts maybe that you want to get through. Potentially you want to run 2 saps in this deck, but we're starting off with 1. But you want to get your weapons. Ideally you want to get a Self-Sharpening Sword. You want to start buffing. We've got Krasnov and Captain Greenskin in this deck to buff up your weapon. You want to play Steel Dance for massive tempo swings. Cutting Class is pretty much always going to be 1 or 0 mana in this deck to give you much loads of card draw. So yeah, it's a pretty good deck. Obviously running Secret Passage as well. I mean, I think every single rogue deck is going to run Secret Passage pretty much. Every sort of aggressive rogue at least. I feel like, it's just such a good card. So yeah, this is kind of an alternate take on the whole aggressive rogue archetype. I'm not sure if this is better than just the aggro stealth rogue. it might be. It's making use of a lot of the new cards. So I do want to try this for sure. I think, you know, cards like Volpera, Toxin Blade, Steel Dancer do have a lot of potential in this deck. You can, you know, Steel Dancer can probably summon like a 6-drop plus a lot of the time with all the weapon buffs we have. So I think it's pretty strong, honestly. We're gonna have to wait to see if it's actually any good though. But yeah, I think it's a cool archetype to try out, and definitely one that I'll be using at the start of the expansion. Alright guys, that is it for this episode and for this Theorycraft series. Once again, thank you guys all for tuning in to all of my episodes. If you haven't, there will be a playlist in my channel. I've had a really fun time recording these and, you know, making these. Took me a couple of days to actually come up with all these decks. I wanted to put a lot of effort into them. I didn't want to just give you some random decks and with random cards. Put a lot of effort into these decks, and let's see if I'm actually going to be right on any of these decks. Probably none of them, to be honest. You know, I don't think I'm going to get an exact deck list correct, but we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I hope this kind of hypes you up for the expansion, obviously coming out very, very soon now. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the battlefield. Take care.